So anyway, I think we'll start. I think I'll start with Mark. Mark, 2011 is when you quit and you went into, decided to kind of go fully into your transition, your second career. Leading up to that, when was the point where you decided what you wanted to do, and how did it come about?
Well, basically, we're very lucky as jockeys. We've got the Professional Jockeys Association that look after us, and during that time, they've had an organisation called JETS, which is Jockeys Education Training Scheme, and so I retrained while I was riding through a couple of reasons. A bit like the boys, I was learning my trades and riding towards the end of my career. But I was, dare I say it, lucky, but I broke my back a couple of times. So on the second time, it was 6 months off, not being able to ride or do anything. I was kind of in a cast. I retrained as an electrician, so I got all my bits that I needed for that. And I then got back riding. I was carrying on during the summer, a bit of electrics. And then after that, there was just one day that I decided that enough was enough and I'll give it a go.
Was it something you'd always been interested in, or was it something that Jets had kind of advertised and you thought, oh, I quite fancy that?
Well, not at all, actually. I mean, I've had a weird career in that I went to university to study physiotherapy. I got my degree in that and realised I wasn't very good at that. So I then thought I'd give the riding a go, because I was doing that at the same time. I did that for 15 years, and then I sat down with Lisa, who's kind of our head of Jets, and she said, I asked her, what shall I do? And she said, basically, talk me through it. Decided that I wanted to do something that was tangible, not sitting in an office. I wanted to do something outside, do something that you got a result out of. So I then we decided to give the electrician a go, and I went on a short course, which just to get my at the time 17th edition. But of course, it's all very well you're qualified at that stage as long as you go with an associated body. But it's all very well saying you've got your 17th edition. There's nothing like experience. So I was lucky enough. I was carried on riding. I worked for a couple of other electricians and got a bit more experience, and then decided I'd go alone.
So how long have you had the business now?
So I retired at the end of 2011. So that's when that was when I kind of set up, and that was my business. But up until that stage, I probably had 2 years of kind of learning during the summer, doing quite a lot of work. And when I wasn't riding, I'd go and work on days that I wasn't riding.
Did you find it easy enough to bring in the business, to bring in clients and stuff like that? Did you look to your kind of former colleagues and your network within sport to help with that?
Well, that's the beauty of sport. I mean, people knew me from riding, so they knew who I was, knew me personally, and of course, there's a lot of businesses where I live in racing, so I was able to get into that business, and people have been really supportive, inside racing. Okay, so for the first couple of years, it was a lot of jobs inside racing, or friends. In fact, friends around the place. But since I've taken on a few lads and we're working, we're diversifying all the time. So we're still serving the racing community, but we're moving out and doing all the other bits and pieces as well.
And have you brought on more jockeys, more former jockeys or current jockeys? I've
had a couple of jockeys come to me for not an apprentice, just a couple of days, just to see if they fancied it. Which I'm really happy to do. I didn't let them off. I worked them quite hard. So a few of them decided it wasn't for them and they want to do other things, and a few of them have thought, I'll go get an apprentice course, or go and do something along those lines. I mean, the difficulty for the apprentice to go down the apprentice line for me was that I had already had a family, and 2 children, and of course you're starting on a very, the salary for being an apprentice is not sustainable for having a family. So that's the reason why I went down the short course and just tried to incorporate into my riding business at the time.
Okay, Liam, kind of moving on to you, same kind of idea. At what point, you're still playing at the moment, so at what point was the light bulb moment when you thought, I need to plan for the future?
So it was about probably 3 years ago. I was with the Newport Gwent Dragons at the time. And basically I was out of a contract and I was looking for one. Nothing was out there at the time. And me and one of my mates who was getting left at the time, we just thought, oh, have a look for trades. And we just literally Googled what was the best paying trade out there.
At least you're honest. At least you're honest.
It was literally like that. And it was like very simple to market, and went on the short course route just because if I needed to work basically straight away, I could have the qualifications for it. But luckily, when I was doing the course, I got picked up then by Cardiff Blues. So then, like, I think I had like a 10-week off season at the time where I finished the short course theory side of it. And then I had like a full year of rugby. And then I had to remember everything again then for my next off season, which was a year time, to do the practical side of it. So that was quite hard, like revisited it after that. But luckily, the guy who I did the course with, my friend at the time who left Dragons, he got his own company up and running.
Oh.
So very simple to mark, working with him, working on like my off days. And to be fair, like I still speak to him now, and I work on my days off now, and he's doing real well at the moment. So that's why I really got into it. Really, it's just like pot of luck, really.
So, in terms of the RPA, would be your union. Were they supportive? Did they help you with it?
So at the time, it only then started up, so it was quite hard. But as soon as I left the Dragons, really only then when I went to the Blues, it really got it kick-started, as in the WRPA. And then I worked with Phil and Phil Davis. And to be fair, I can't ask anything more of him, to be fair. Like if I, like any update exams, like my 18th edition, like he did the sort that out through college for me. And to be fair to the college, they've been really good with me, like sorting me out on that, being really flexible. And to be fair, it's been really good since then.
And have your clubs been supportive with you? You know.
Yeah. So at the time, to be fair, one of the sponsorships is an electrical firm. So if I needed to pick up any jobs with them, they were happy enough to have me on board. To be fair to them.
It's match shows there a wee minute. Sorry, I didn't.
Right. That's right. No, that's it.
Internet connection is unstable. It's windy, a bit like at Kate's.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So were they supportive? Your club, were they supportive?
Yeah. So they spoke to sponsors, and then sponsors took it from there, really. So I worked with Heat Force for a bit, just learning, just small stuff, really. And then by the time I finished that, my friend at the time, like I said, had his business up and running. So then I jumped in with him, really.
Do you think it helps? We've kind of found a lot of research recently up here in Scotland about how having a second career running alongside your playing career can actually help with your focus for playing. Do you find that? Do you find that it's a good distraction? Does you find it?
Yeah, more of a distraction, I'd say. So like it's quite stressful, really, when you're in the thick of it, especially in season-wise. I think the boys will agree on that. So it's just nice to get out of the bubble as well, like, which is quite nice, to be fair. And you like see different sides of other people you wouldn't see as well. So it's not just throwing a rugby ball around the field all day.
And is it quite nice to have that comfort that you know that when rugby comes to an end, a little bit like Mark was talking about when he finished, you know, he already knew what that transition was going to be and there was something in place? Yeah,
that's looking back at it, that's the real luck I got with that now, where some boys I speak to now haven't got much backed up and they don't really know where they want to go down an office job route or trades route. So yeah, I'm quite fortunate in that sense.
Good. So I'm just going to move on to Ross here. I don't want to let him feel left out. So Ross, you're probably a little bit newer to the kind of electrician side of things. So it must be quite interesting for you listening to what Mark and Liam are talking about.
It is. Obviously, I've went through down the sort of apprenticeship route. I've sort of fell into that, to be fair. After doing the tiling course, which was through the PFA, it was half funded. At the time, it was still lockdown, so the other job I had, we weren't working, and it felt a perfect time. And to be honest, if it wasn't for the PFA, would I have ever done a tiling course? No, I wouldn't have. And through having that tiling course and qualification and a little bit of experience, I I managed to get myself in with a company and started tiling. But the contract I've got, there's not always tiling going on. And I think with sports people, I think everybody's got a good work ethic because everybody's worked hard to get to where they are, whether it be rugby, football, horse riding, whatever it is. Everybody's obviously had a good work ethic. They've had to work hard to get what they've got and achieved. So the owner of the company that I went to do the tiling for noticed that, and he sees me progressing in the company, and he basically came to me and said, we want to put you through a sort of adult apprenticeship, and he just said basically pick which one you like. And like Liam there, you obviously look at the wages and see who makes the most. So that made it a obvious choice.
I think I need to jump onto that one.
That made it the most obvious choice. But still doing the tiling. To be honest, I mostly do tiling as homers now. It's not so much through the job or my work as such now. So having that skill on the side has been nothing. I've never looked back, to be honest, and hopefully that will set me up for the rest of my life once I stop playing as well.
So before you did the tiling course, you were just working with the chairman at your club?
Yep, it was just a service technician. And then obviously further down the line, like Mark there, I mean, everybody dreams of having their own business and own work. So that was sort of my goal. And although it was a steady job working with the chairman and stuff like that, it just wasn't for me. And like the boys wanted more hands-on with stuff, getting in that environment. And as I say, if I'd ever done that tiling course, I wouldn't have had the chance or opportunity to go and present myself at a company and tell them I've got a skill that I can already start with. And then it's just about applying yourself and working hard the first few months, especially because first impressions are everything after all.
So you're obviously still, a bit like Liam, you're still playing at the moment as well. How do you find the balance of playing and work too? Because to explain to the guys up in Scotland, the games, because of COVID, have been literally Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. It's been coming thick and fast, so it must have been a bit of a balancing act.
Yeah, a bit of a balancing act. Lately I've been working a lot of Sundays just to catch up with stuff like that and where I can, and that's just part and parcel. I mean, boys playing any sport, they think it's going to last forever, and it's not. And obviously up in Scotland, playing football isn't great wages either, and boys think it's going to last forever and always dream of maybe getting that move down south, whatever. But realistically, it's one in every so many. So I think you need to look after yourself and think future ahead, especially if you've got a young family or want to start a family, or even such things as getting a house. It's not easy, getting mortgages and stuff like that. So it's just having that extra skill or extra income it just means a lot to everybody, I think, about who does it and goes on to do these things.
Liam, have you, a bit like Ross, you've got to get that balance right. What kind of other type of challenges have you faced, or have you faced any other challenges with having that dual career?
Yeah, so it's very hard. I find it very hard trying to balance it out almost. So like our weeks are normally Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, play Saturday. Because like it's sometimes hard then, especially if you have like a hard day at work, then trying to recover for then become a Friday game sometimes, and you're 2 days out from a game, and you go into the game sometimes knackered. So it's just trying to pick and choose when is best to take on jobs is the hardest.
So when you're in a period like that, how do you cope? Do you have kind of mechanisms to help?
To be honest, no, I don't, and probably need to. But no, I haven't got no coping mechanism really. It's just to be fair, I let people know straight away. I think that's the best thing you can do. Like if I'm busy, I'm busy, and to be fair, they don't mind that either. As long as I'm upfront to them, I'm not saying I'll be there Saturday and don't turn up in 3 weeks' time.
Mark, is it the same kind of thing to you? I mean, challenges. I mean, how easy did you find it to go from sport to being an electrician?
I think the most important thing for me was that it was difficult. I mean, doing something you love. The great thing about doing a trade, and this is what I've always said, is that when you're paid to do a sport, which the boys are, you know, and as a jockey, people think, you know, the money's good if you're one of the top ones, but if you're not one of the top ones, it's, you know, it's livable, but it's hard work. But imagine getting, you know, you enjoy your sport, but you get paid for it. So the other reason I wanted to do it was because I enjoy, well, at the time, I enjoyed being an electrician while I was still riding. And I thought, you know, how lucky am I to go into another career that I get paid to do that I enjoy, you know? I mean, the money's good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's really hard work, but we're sportsmen, so we're not afraid of hard work, and that's the main thing. But in terms of doing it at the same time as when I was riding, as a jockey, it's unlike the fixtures for the football and the rugby. We don't know necessarily if we're going to be riding on a day, or you might be riding 7 days a week. So that's why it was very good to have, a bit like Ross said, that he was able to, and Liam said that they can come and pick and choose what jobs they can do, because you just don't know if you're going to be available. And I think we're very lucky that, you know, people are prepared to give us the chance on that.
Liam and Ross, from a kind of like playing in a team game, you play rugby, you play football, you have the dressing room banter and all the rest of it. You know, you're never going to my mind, you know, finding that elsewhere is quite difficult. So from a people kind of point of view, what's it like? Is it as enjoyable in the real working world as it is in sport in that dressing room? What's the main kind of differences?
Well, for me, Michelle, it's you know the banter you're going into. You're going into another field of men, and it's just what you were used to in the changing rooms and whatever. But I've never seen so many people keep an eye on the Forfar scores, and I only hear from them if you get beat. That's the biggest part, getting slagged when you get beat. But no, it's all good fun, and to be fair, all the guys, all they want to talk to you about is a sport. You're trying to do work and whatever, and all they want to talk about is football. They go off their mind the other side, the work we're meant to be getting paid for. Whereas I'm the opposite. I'm trying to learn more, but they're just asking me about football questions. So that's probably the most difficult part. Try to get me focused on their own job.
Do you find that, Liam?
Yeah, very much so. So I was working at the time when it was like Six Nations was on, and then they just asking what's the squad going to be, as if I know, like I haven't got a clue. So just stuff like that. But like the banter, to be fair, like I worked on site a few times, and some good banter in there as well. So it's not much difference really. But obviously it's just a different thing of where working. It's a little bit of harder work, I'd say, on site. But yeah, banter aside, like I really, like Mark said, I really enjoy it, and that's the reason I do it for as well.
Do you think? I think Mark mentioned it earlier about the kind of skills that sports people have. You know, I think a lot of people don't realise, you know, how many of them are actually so transferable into the workplace. Have you found that?
Yeah, like just the attitude of wanting to learn as well. I think I would go like, for Mark now, who's got a company, you wouldn't employ someone that doesn't want to learn, I guess. But then just like for me and Ross, we've said a few times, it's the want to learn, and people like really enjoy that from us, I'd say. It's like a good attitude at the boot to have.
Mark, what kind of the skills that you could take from being a jockey into the workplace, what kind of skills did you take over with you? What helped you with that transition?
Well, first of all, well, you know, with the boys, you talked about the banter. I mean, in the jockeys' room, that was the be all and end all. I mean, it's one of the few sports that you're followed by 2 ambulances. So, you know, the camaraderie is great. So on site, you get that. You know, between the other trades, you get that. You're not followed by ambulances, but you do. You can have a great crack with each other, as we say. But the other thing I just wanted to say, but I'll come back to, is that the boys also said that everyone's asking you about the score of your sport, or, for example, the Grand National or the Derby, who's going to win that. And I don't know if the boys noticed this as well, but people are absolutely amazed by the fact you are a sportsman, and talking to people outside of it. And I think that was one of the few things when you're in the industry, you don't realise how lucky you are to do it. So everyone says, "Oh, you're a jockey! I can't believe that's amazing." And at the time, because all my friends were jockeys, it's just normal. And I suppose, you know, and if I meet any footballer or any rugby player, I'm thinking, you know, that's amazing, you know, to be able to do that. So that's one of the things I found on the site. But transferable skills, I think it really is, it's hard work, you know, hard work and getting up and doing your job. Because as a sportsman, you're never going to achieve what you want to achieve by being lazy. So I think that's the one driving force, is that if you're conscientious and you work hard, you've got every chance in whatever career you want to do.
Would you both agree there with what Mark's saying about the transferable skills?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, Michelle, if it wasn't for me showing the eagerness and willing to work when I just went in my tailoring, I probably wouldn't have been offered the chance to progress and be offered the adult apprenticeship that I'm currently going through. And as I say, I think it comes as a must with sportsmen. Work ethic, it's the be all and end all. I mean, now having to fit in training, work, football, your own training, whether it's go to the gym. So it's constant. And without work ethic, the sports people wouldn't have achieved what they've achieved to this day. And I think that's something that never leaves you. It's just always with you. And going to a new career, I think you just take that with you, and it's want to be the best, whatever you're doing, no matter what it's doing, whether it's tiling, football, electrician, joiner, whatever it is. I think just want to be the best as you can be at whatever you're doing is just a thing that comes natural with sports people, if I'm honest, or majority of sports people.
Liam, why would you say that trades is a good fit for a sports person?
Just for me, I think my family have all been tradespeople, so naturally I went into that straight away. But similar, it's hard work, but it's very satisfactory as well. So that's what I like about it, where you get an end product and you see the end product, and it's a bit like I don't know. It's like after you play a game, if you've had a good game, you're very satisfied. Or if you win a race, for example, with Mark. So it's just probably that competition side. Without the competition, just yourself. But then you get that satisfied reaction then when things go right. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they don't go wrong.
The same as well, Michelle. I think with sports people and stuff, they're used to being active. So going into sitting at a desk job or in an office is just it's totally different from being active. And whereas I like to be quite hands-on and quite active and stuff like that. So I think that's another reason why a trade sort of fits as well. So you're not just sitting at an office all day at a desk job, or from what it is now, working from home, stuck in the house. So I think that's how trade sort of applies well for sports people as well.
I've just got a wee question in there. Is there a way to try different trades before you choose a main one to specialise in? Have any of you had experience of that?
See, to be honest, Michelle, I think a lot of companies are quite helpful. I've found before I started with the company I'm doing it with, they were more than willing to bring me in for a week to let me know, see how it was on. I think it's just a case of asking these companies a question, and I think a lot of them would be willing to take you on and just to give you a wee idea. And don't get me wrong, I never get paid for doing it, but it gives you a head start and gives you a wee look into it and see how it's all right doing courses, but actually physically doing a job and getting hands-on is different, as the boys would know. But I think just having willingness to ask the question for companies and sending emails or even popping into a company and seeing them face to face, I think a lot of people would be willing to help.
Yeah. I think it's something that Mark kind of mentioned at the start about, you know, how he still is very much involved with the kind of racing community. Do you find that, you know, using that network, the network that you're within just now, do you think there's enough, that players do that enough? I always think that if you, from a football point of view, if you stand in the middle of the pitch and you look around at all those boards around the pitch, there has to be, probably 50 plus kind of businesses there that it could be something that you're interested in. I'll ask that to Mark, sorry.
Sorry.
You kind of...
Yeah. So, I mean...
a long time.
we've got sponsorship on the race courses, and indeed a lot of vet trainers and indeed jockeys are sponsored as well. So there is all that. But as I said earlier, I mean, we got the PGA or the Jets. We're very lucky in that I've had a few, as I say, they've talked to them and said, oh, what do you want to do? And they probably said, oh, I don't know. And she said, oh, why don't you go for a day with Mark, or just see what you think about it. So I'm obviously electrician. I've got a lad who does a bit of plumbing as well with me now. So I've a couple of people come and see if plumbing's the sort of thing they want to do. So I can do that. But you're absolutely right. In the football sense, you have got all the boards and the supporters of football teams. I've got a great mate who's a builder's merchant, and he supports Swindon Supermarine. And he would be more than willing. He's not a tradesman, but he's a builder's merchant. He'd be more than willing to help them on. So in a sport where you've got big people involved in the sponsorship of those teams, I'm sure there's got to be help there.
Liam, do you find that? Do you find that the rugby and the sponsors and the network there, can it be helpful?
Yeah, so I didn't realise this until when the boy said to me when he retired. So normally when COVID-free, obviously, if you wouldn't play, you'd do like box visits to the sponsors. And he just said that is like one of the biggest things he wish he paid more attention to, was just speaking to people more and just getting people's numbers, contact details. And like, it's opened my eyes a little bit now, especially when I've done as much I've done in trades wise now, it's probably opened my eyes up to just trying to speak to people as much as you can, any networking events with the sponsors, get in and just, I know it's only an hour out your day, so it shouldn't really matter that much. And just on the question I was appointed to, so one of my mates, I did like a crash course basically of like different trades in a college near us. And he said he found that very useful because he didn't know what to do. And I think it was like every 2 weeks they'd switch up. So it was like plumbing for the first 2 weeks, electrics, painting and decorating, and then tiling. I think that might not be a bad route to go down because you get brief basics on it, and if you can decide then which one you prefer.
Ross, you're obviously doing both two at the moment. So do you have a preference?
I prefer. It depends. It all depends on the sort of the job that you're put in front of. I mean, you could get four flat walls that are straight and all parallel, and fire things up easy. But there's other jobs you go and it's a nightmare. You need to build it out a bit to balance it up. So it all depends what job you're handed. I mean, with the electric side stuff, we do disability access and adaptations in houses. So it's doing like bathrooms and kitchens for different councils. So again, you get easy jobs. I mean, if you're an electrician, you don't have a loft. I can't get under the floor. Need to raggle walls. Every job's different. So a preference, probably not. But it just depends what's easier. And I suppose it's what you're better at as well. But long term, I probably see myself doing more of the electrical stuff. But because tiling's a skill as well, it's easier to pick up than an electrician as well. So you always have that skill. That will never leave you. So it's a great thing to have.
Ross is obviously talking there about starting a business at some stage. Mark, you've done that. How easy is it to do that? How expensive is it to do it? Do you need, what's your kind of foundation?
Well, I've always been, while I was a jockey, I was always self-employed. So although we got the PGA who look after us amazingly, we've never been employed, shall we say, unless we were what we called an apprentice or a conditional jockey. So that's the only time you were really employed. And then you became self-employed. So I've always run my own business from a self-employed point of view all this time. So it was very different getting into the electric side because the PGA, ironically, they helped me so much in that when you rode, you got paid. You didn't have to invoice people. So I had an idea of it, but getting into it was quite difficult, the business side of things. And I've been helped by my wife and helped by other people to kind of get my head around it. And even now, I don't really like the bookwork. And that's the bit where you invoice people. and you get your money in. And it's the most essential thing, but I still don't like doing it. I'd rather be out there, working and achieve, as the boys say, achieving something. So to be able to achieve something and come away from it with the customer happy, you're happy. That's the fun part.
Is it quite simple? Is it simple enough to put a plan in place and get it started, though, in terms of the electrician side of things?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing is you start with somebody else, and then you can go on your own, and that I think you need to look into the business side of things. You need to look and see how you do it, whether or not you go limited, whether or not you stay as a sole trader for a bit and then go limited, or it depends. It's an ever evolving thing. It depends how big you want to get. I mean, the boys will probably know this, that when you're a small business, if you have more than a couple of people, it becomes really difficult to manage because you're trying to work as well. So you keep it small, or you go more than 10 lads working for you. So I've kept it small because I like to keep my hands on. If it was 10, I'd have to be organising them and not working. So that's the route I've taken. Oh, hello, dog.
Oh, sorry, this is Harry. Say hello, Harry. He's getting very antsy. So Ross obviously said he wants to, we can see himself starting up his own business. Liam, are you the same? Do you think you'll go down the same route eventually?
Yeah, eventually, but obviously depending on how my rugby career goes, if it finished a little bit shorter than I wanted to, I'd probably work with a company, just get my skills back up to if I'm doing it every day, I'd rather be over experienced in the sense of that than under, and then go from there with more confidence, I'd say.
Yeah. Ross, do you have a time scale?
No, I mean, I don't think I'd start it probably coming into the later of my career. Hopefully I'll still get a few years left playing, but obviously apprenticeship is going to take, my adult apprenticeship is going to take 3 years. So after that, as Liam said there, you just want to get as much experience as you can. So as in a time scale, no, I think it's just when you're comfortable, to be honest, Michelle, and just when you feel confident enough and comfortable enough to handle situations. I mean, every job you go into is different, so it's just being able to adapt to different situations and knowing a plan. So I would say not a time scale on it. I'm brushed off my feet as it is with playing and working, whatever else. So having your own business would just add even more stress on. So take it easy and see how it goes is probably the answer.
I think you should both speak to Mark. I think you should get his number and have a chat with him about it.
Michelle, can I ask a quick question?
Of course. About
this? So boys, I'm just wondering, I mean, I definitely found that when I got my electrician's course in 17th edition at the time, do you find that having that knowledge that you've got a career after your playing days, do you think you feel like you're playing a bit better because of it, because there's no you don't have to rely just on your decision making, you can actually play a bit more naturally? What do you think?
Well, I'd probably agree with that. I mean, you've got something to fall back on. You're not just playing constantly for that next contract. You've got something else that's bringing in an income, and something else you're doing and whatever else. So I would think probably because you're more focused on the game than thinking about. I mean, up in Scotland it works a lot. It's just 1 year rolling contracts, so you're not continuously going into a game thinking I need to play well. I need to win another contract, because you have got that thing to fall back on and what you're doing. So it's not the only income you're going to be relying on. So I would say, well, some people might disagree, but I would say since I became comfortable with a second career choice, my performance would probably have creeped up.
Just with me, I probably would agree on that as well. Just I take it back to the time I didn't have a contract. It's so stressful, and it comes to the point where if you are looking for a contract, they obviously lowball you because nothing's out there for you. And then if I came back to that situation again where I got these qualifications now, I could obviously then weigh up where it'd be worth taking the lowball offer and then just being a pad holder for the year, or end up just taking the punt and then going out and starting my electrician.
So what advice would you give to Mark, first of all, like a young jockey just now who's out there, who's maybe very, very focused, very determined to make it to the top of the tree. You know, when it comes to being a jockey, what advice would you give to them in terms of their longer term future? When should they start planning?
That's a very difficult one, because I've been to university, so I've kind of thought, you know, I've done that bit, and I gave that all up to be a jockey, which was wonderful. And obviously for 10, 15 years, I didn't really think about my next career, slightly because, and this has come back to my previous, I had a physiotherapy degree. So I could have become a physiotherapist if I wanted to, but I realized I wasn't good enough, I'll be honest with you. But I had that in the back of my mind. But definitely when you've got time off, and the one thing about jockeys is that they can be, I mean, during the summer, the flat jockeys can, the recent regulations have changed, but back in the day, they were riding out in the morning at 6 or 5, traveling to races for 2 o'clock, being at the races all day, and then traveling to an evening meeting, getting home probably about 12, getting up at 5 the next morning. So it was pretty tough. But on their time off, when they're not necessarily riding, they definitely want to be thinking about it and talking to our association, which is Jets, and just saying, is there anything we can do rather than sitting on your behind and they say relaxing, but really wasting your time. I mean, a lot of jockeys go and play golf when they've got time off, which is great. I mean, we'd love to play a bit more, but you know, if we could just encourage kids to look to the future, just to get an idea, you know, and just get some basic skills. Even you talked about bookkeeping. I mean, I did a basic bookkeeping course on a time off that I wasn't, you know, a bit of time that I had, you know, on the off season, and for the boys. I mean, that's the time when you want to be just doing something just to kind of, you know, educate yourself and move on, because as they both said, it's not going to last forever.
I know kind of a wee bit about the football dressing room, so I'm going to go to Liam with that one. What's it like in the rugby dressing room? Is it something that the players are very engaged in? Are they actively looking at second careers? Is there more focus on the rugby? How does it work?
It's very 50-50 split, I think, where you have some boys who just literally focus on rugby, and you got some boys then who will focus on doing something outside of rugby. It's like a few boys have got their own businesses and just stuff like that. But then there's a very difference between two parties, I'd say.
So what would your advice be to them? Do you actively talk to them about what you do and kind of encourage them to follow the same kind of path, to have that plan, that foundation in place for the future?
Yeah, a few boys have spoke to me about like what course have I done, etc. And I just always say, like, try something first. If you don't like it, then there's always other options. It's not just trades. I know we talk about trades all the time at the moment, but there is other options out there as well. But at least as long as you try something, you know you don't like it or you do like it.
True. Ross, I get so frustrated with football dressing rooms, I have to admit, and we're trying to get players to engage and doing something else, and you know, thinking about a second career. You're one of the ones that has. What would your advice be to young footballers? If you look back at yourself when you were at St Mirren when you started off, did you have a plan for a second career, or did you just fell into it?
No, never, Michelle. To be honest, I think when you're that age, I think everybody just has the thought that they're going to make it and going to make it big. I think everybody's in the same wavelength. Even when we were young boys just starting out, when you first sign with football, it's like a YTS you do, and we sent to college 1 day a week. Even that, nobody really takes that serious, because nobody, at the time, you're young and naive, and nobody thinks that they're going to have to go down that road. And I think drilling into your head that, I mean, you're one bad tackle that away from having to fall back to a second career as well, not just with age, but injuries and stuff like that. And if I was telling my younger self, I would have probably went and done a proper course earlier, and started a lot younger and got hands-on. So by this time, I'd maybe not have to do the adult apprenticeship, and you would already be more qualified and suitable. So I would say plan as early as you can, because you're never going to regret anything you do. Whether it's you try a course, you don't like it, but at least you know that's the box ticks. But for the football one in Scotland now, for the PFA, I mean, they're putting on courses on place. And for me, a lot of footballers they want things handed to them. And I mean, this is for the PFA to put on these courses. It's as good as it gets, to be honest. Not many people get that opportunity, and for myself, half the course was paid for. So for me, it was a no-brainer to take up the opportunity. And at the end of the day, if it was something I didn't enjoy, then it wasn't a big loss. At least I know I've tried to do it, and I've tried to give myself that chance. And fortunate enough, it's worked out very well for me.
Do the boys in the dressing room talk about it? Do they ask you about what you're doing, and do they want to get in? Are they interested in getting into the same kind of thing that you are?
Yeah, I mean, I've had various text messages, and even a couple of my really close friends that are coming to the sort of end of their contracts and out of contract have been asking about it as well. But it's one of the ones, Michelle. There's only so much you can tell someone. It's up to them to go and do it. And unfortunately, that's half the battle. I mean, I'm not telling any lies when I say doing that course has changed my life. And that's no word of a lie. It has changed my life and gave me an opportunity that I probably would never been able to get. So for me, it's telling anybody else it is a no-brainer. It's just pushing yourself forward and taking that wee hit in the pocket, although it's half it gets paid for. So there's only so much you can tell someone, Michelle, and for you guys putting on these courses, I think it's brilliant. I think more people just need to take the opportunity, to be honest.
Okay, I'm just checking. I don't think we've got any questions. If anybody's got any questions, if they want to fire them in, that would be great. I think I don't want to take up too much of your time, gentlemen, because I know it's the evening and I've got a very angry puppy sitting on my knee here, desperate to get out.